You are about to journey against the current of contemporary thought and beyond the troubled waters of daily news to the very source of our extraordinary culture. You are going upstream with Cashill and Edge.
Hey, here we are one more time. Episode 30. We've done 30 of these, yeah.
Wow, man.
Did you ever think we would get that? This is Jack Cashill, by the way.
I'm Loy Edge, and I never thought we'd get to 30.
I am thrilled to get to 30.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I mean, first 30, that's, the next thing you know.
30-something. 31.
We go right from there, from 30 to 31. It's another giant step for man. And, Neil Armstrong screwed up that.
Yeah.
You know what he's supposed to have said, right?
Yeah, he was supposed to have said one giant step for mankind.
He's supposed to have said one small step for a man.
A man, yeah.
And one giant leap for mankind.
Yeah.
But he said instead, one false step for man. And people said, what difference does that make? Well, no, he's just now it's becoming, he's just repeating the first part.
Yeah.
The poetic tension is lost.
Yeah, he blew it.
And today, what would you have to say? One small step for what? A person?
Showbiz.
Right. One small step for
one small illusion for the great administrative state.
There you go. And Houston, check those lights back there in the camera room. That's we want to get this done right. No, I'm not that cynical about that. I still believe we landed on the moon. And
this, folks, is why I call Jack Pollyanna.
Yeah, Mr. Pollyanna to you. They call me Mr. Pollyanna. Speaking of interesting phenomenon, one that has caught my attention right from the beginning.
What's that?
Was the unlikely candidacy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the Democratic primary.
Yeah, unlikely for a lot of reasons. Like, I thought that game was all over. I didn't think people were allowed to, run on any expressed ideas in that party. What's the deal?
Let alone to run without permission.
Yeah.
And it's not unlike Donald Trump running in 2016 in the Republican primaries.
Yes, I think we have a schism here in both parties that may be coming to fruition in ways that we don't even see yet. It's going to unfold really quickly.
Yeah, and 2024, the election will be, I think, the inflection point in American history. I hate that word.
I don't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine an outcome that half of America will be able to live with.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? All that stuff we said, and we're going to take that all back. Sorry.
Yeah, we like Donald Trump, or we like.
Yeah.
But Robert Kennedy. Did you read The Real Anthony Fauci?
I didn't read it all. I read a lot of segments, and I will say I heard about 9 hours of interviews.
Yes. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. And that was when he marked himself as a renegade. Although, and it's odd because in my 2015 book I talk about Kennedy. I went back on Scarlet Letters, and one of the Scarlet Letters that in my litany of Scarlet Letters was the D for denialism. Right.
And Scarlet Letters were when you committed the sins against
the progressive
wokeism. You
right.
had to wear a letter like Heather Prynne in
right.
Scarlet Letter.
That's right.
To be a marked man, essentially.
Right. So you could be
society.
S for sexist, R for racist, I for Islamophobic, so on and so forth. And he's in the book because in 2014 he was at a march for some climate change thing, and he was interviewed, and he argued that the Koch brothers should be put in jail for their denialism.
Who's this?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
So
yes, I heard this soundbite.
And I saw it at the time.
Somebody was playing it yesterday.
Right. And it's it's to me for him to be, as a I could accept Robert Kennedy presidency far sooner than I could accept one from anyone else on that side of the fence. But there's some things he's got to reconcile, right? And that's a pretty major one from my perspective.
Well, when you see what they did to Bernie.
Yeah. Twice.
Right. This guy represents a lot of the same issues that they had with the inability to manage Bernie.
Right.
Only this guy is a lot more clever and a lot more vicious than Bernie, I think.
And he has a certain pedigree that is that has both its pluses and minuses. But if you're a Democrat,
it would put him in the same room with one Donald John Trump.
Right.
Which is not acceptable.
In fact, they've asked him if he would run as
I know.
Yeah. And he said, no way. But his comments about Trump are far more rational than are any other Democrats. Yeah.
Than are allowable.
Right.
They're not allowed to say rational things.
Yeah.
And this is going to be an immediate change in the dynamics.
Right.
Is Kennedy is forcing some third rail issues that were not to be mentioned.
Right.
He's mentioning them. He's starting to bring them to the fore where you can no longer say, well, it's third rail because Trump, stupid, bad.
Right.
Now they've got to come up with some equally inane reason to not discuss it that somehow involves Robert F. Kennedy.
Right. He's like a vaccine denier or whatever.
Yeah.
He's listed as a conspiracy theorist. He is a bit of a conspiracy theorist, in fact. But, I heard him the other night explaining the likely involvement of the CIA in the death of his father.
Yes.
Not his uncle.
Yes.
In fact, the death of his father, it's a more credible argument even. His father was shot. I mean, the fellow who shot at him was a Palestinian named Sirhan, who's still in prison in California. But there was another shooter, Kennedy argues, who is a security guard. And but that's an involved story. I can't get into details of that. I don't know him well enough.
Sirhan Bathsheba Sirhan?
I don't know his middle name, but Sirhan's been there for a long time. I mean, we're talking now, what was that, 45, 55 years?
Let me put it this way. Nobody's going to buy that biography, Sirhan, My Life.
No, it's not going to be a hot one, jumping off the shelves. And what they've also suppressed over the years is the fact that he's a Palestinian. So Lee Harvey Oswald, we hear that name all the time, but Sirhan is a name that only the insiders would even know. But
it's true. I mean, and what I think has been disappointing is that the typical leftist radicals haven't adopted Sirhan T-shirts. They'd just be so not as cool as
Che Guevara. And yet, if I'm not mistaken, Bill Ayers, in one of his, the unrepentant terrorist.
Now, didn't he blow up the Pentagon?
Oh yeah, but that was a long time ago.
Well, he was pals with, who was it?
Some former president whose name escapes me.
A former president hung out with him?
Right.
Okay.
Rutherford B. Obama.
Oh yeah.
But he was among Sirhan, and this pissed Robert Kennedy Jr. off, was among the people that Ayers dedicated a book to.
Oh, wow.
A political prisoner, so...
so maybe the Kennedys and Obamas and Clintons don't have a great kumbaya kind of existence. So maybe they're not all going to just gently fold like a cake mix into that Democrat Party when they all come together. Maybe there'll be a little bit of infighting. What do you think?
I think there will. And, we have like 3 now rival dynasties, at least, now that the Cuomos are out of the picture.
They play rough, don't they? I mean, traditionally, don't they stop when somebody's heart stops?
Yeah, when the brain stops functioning.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's a history there, and so it should get interesting. But a couple other issues that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is, first of all, I admire his stand on is really upfront attack on Anthony Fauci and the whole medical industrial complex.
You've got to admire that and the ecology thing.
Right.
Because he's coming right out saying that's a fraud.
Yeah. But he's got to get up front about getting ahead of climate change. If he could do that, because it's the exact same paradigm.
It is.
You have the oppressive media, the scientific consensus, the shutdown of dissenting opinions, the marginalization of the people who oppose you, all the vile kinds of things they can call you and whatnot.
Complete co-opting of all children's content.
Yeah.
To force this issue.
That's right. That's right. In both cases. So there's that. I mean, I think he has to make that leap, and I don't know if he's been challenged on that or not. I haven't seen it. The other one is going to be a big one for him. Is he's the head of an organization called Children's Health Defense, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the title.
That's a vaccine defense thing.
Yeah, yeah. Stay in the mic a little. You're wandering here.
Okay.
Tell him to stop wandering.
All right.
Okay. Mom. Children's Health Defense. Okay. You're worried about the health of children. You're defending the health of children. But 1 million of them are being killed every year, and you haven't never said a word about it.
Man, what a sore head. A little collateral damage here and there.
It's a little rationalization somewhere.
It's 1 million here and there.
Right.
They were nobodies.
Yeah, I mean, half of them, were not even viable at the moment they were killed.
No.
So so you have these glaring anomalies in this guy's CV that he's got to work out. If he's honest about them, he'll lose any chance of winning the Democratic nomination. So maybe he's got to play it coy. I'm not sure that he's thought them all through yet, personally, but
there's plenty of time to lie.
There is.
You go into it the last minute and just wing it if you're good enough.
About 18 more months before election or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, are you familiar with this story about Michael Skakel? Did we talk about that?
Mm-mm.
That's his cousin on his mother's side. And what first made me rethink my...
That was the murder in the tree.
Yeah. And he wrote a very good book on that caused me to rethink my initial opinion that the Skakel was guilty. I think he made a convincing argument that Skakel was innocent. And he put his reputation on the line when Skakel was in trial. The problem is that his family has such a mixed-bagged legacy that you wonder how is America ready for another Kennedy?
Is America ready for another towel snapper in chief?
Yeah. I started reading last night. I don't know why. Because I knew I was going to learn nothing new. The book by Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard on the Killing of book series. This one's on the killing of Kennedy. All that I learned is that he swam in the nude. So far, that's all the new information I've gotten on him. But
Kennedy did that too?
Yeah.
That's a Biden trick too.
Yeah.
With this female CIA officers.
That's right. That's right.
Secret Service officers.
Right. Dwight and Mamie never swam in the nude,
We hope not.
Richard and Pat never swam in the nude. They were never in the nude.
No.
Even taking showers, they wore clothes.
That's right.
But what's your earliest memories of your first introduction to the Kennedys?
Well, I was at a Catholic school, St. Agnes, and so they were very popular.
Yeah.
He was very popular, and don't remember a lot because it was just getting started. I remember being at home when the news hit on the TV. Walter Cronkite. I was born in December of 55.
Right.
So I would have been 7
pushing
basically.
8,
Yeah. So I was just coming into the age of reason.
And your birthday is what day?
The day after Christmas.
Oh, it's December 26th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something kind of fluky, and it speaks to the the failure of information to transmit from one generation to another, right? I'm going to may embarrass this guy, but I'm not going to name his name. Everyone will know who I'm talking about. You know him. I know him. Good guy, young guy. And he has a new baby, and it's a girl. I said, "Oh, what's the baby's name?" He said, "Kennedy." I said, "That's nice. That's kind of cute." I said,
You know what it means?
"What's that?
You know what that word means?
What does it mean?"
Large, misshapen head.
He doesn't know that.
Okay.
Don't tell him that.
But that's what that word means, Kennedy.
And what language? Irish?
Celtic.
Yeah.
Celtic.
Large, misshapen head.
Yeah.
Well, here's what he didn't notice until he said about him, and he's talking to someone about the birth of the daughter, and they said, "Oh, what day was he born? She born?" And he says, November 22nd. And the woman says, November 22nd. Right. He didn't know, right?
He didn't know.
He didn't know that was the, I said to him, I just had lunch with him recently. I said, that's like saying September 11th to someone like, to someone your age, November 22nd, did not know. And the name came, I forget the reason why they went for the name Kennedy, but, it wasn't a political thing. They just kind of liked the name, I guess. Yeah.
Wow, that makes me wonder if we are going to see political names.
Yeah, right.
Like January 4, what could name people, what names could you throw at people whose parents were there at the Capitol building,
Yeah, right, January 6th, right. Yeah.
January 6th.
I named after Brian Sicknick, like Sicknick Jones or something.
Uh-huh.
Although he didn't die at the Capitol, obviously, but people like to think he did. Although I would say, there used to be...
I'd like to see some Ashleys.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That might be too subtle, though. It's a pretty common name, unless it's Ashley Babbitt Jones or something. In the thinking back, especially among blacks, they used to, like all the McKinleys that came up at one age, and then Roosevelts, lots of Roosevelts. In fact, with Bobby Kennedy, at the time he was shot, was I think two of the Roosevelts, Rosie Greer and Rosie Brown, both football players. So I don't know if there's any babies named Eisenhower or Dwight. There's a few Dwights out there. We have a friend named Dwight. I don't know. Think he was named after. Oh, maybe he was. No, probably not. Maybe he was because Eisenhower was a general also. But
now, is your Uncle Adolf still alive?
No, he's in Argentina right now.
Oh,
I don't know about the state of him. So, but for younger people, that the impact of the Kennedy lore is obviously not as strong as it is for people of a certain age.
No, it was really distinctive. It was like royalty.
Yeah,
there were parallels,
and
with the charwomen of London. Love those royals, just like the gum smacking, the clerks at Target loved JFK
and Jackie,
Jackie,
and her whispery kind of sexy voice, and her French. She spoke French and Italian or whatever she spoke. It was classy, and so for 3 years, 1,000 days, not quite 3 years, we had what we were told was Camelot.
Mm-hmm.
Although that came after the presidency.
Yep.
When Jackie told, I think it was William Manchester, her biographer, that she wanted the presidency to be thought of as Camelot, which was, of course, the very popular musical at the time. So Camelot, which spawned Spamalot and other things. But they had a really kind of a hold on the nation that allowed us to forget some of their past. I mean, there was like airbrushing going on all the time, including the fact that Robert Kennedy's father, the original Robert Kennedy, worked for Joe McCarthy, which in my book is fine.
It's fine, yeah.
But from a Democrat perspective, is not. In fact, the oldest, I believe, of his children Joe McCarthy was the godfather of, right?
Hmm.
And then Joe Kennedy, of course, the father, the old man, who was extremely powerful and controlling, was, bootlegger, totally immoral profligate, I mean, he would have affairs under the roof while the kids were downstairs with people like Gloria Swanson and whatnot, So it's a mixed legacy, and I guess it's that happens anytime you assume a kind of impart a kind of royalty to a group of people. You're going to have some wayward souls, a few Prince Andrews along the way.
Yeah, well, it's just elitism.
And in Bobby Kennedy's case, his whole line of cousins was like totally out of control for a long time. The one brother, David, died of heroin overdose. Robert used to be a heroin addict, which is how he got into the environmental work as community service.
Is that right?
Yeah. Then there was, I believe it was his brother Joseph who was
Crashed into a tree.
and
Skiing.
no, that was his brother Michael. I think did that, which was
Did the Sonny Bono thing.
yeah, which for him was a relief to his family because he was going through the justice system for having sex with his 14-year-old baby, his daughter's 14-year-old babysitter. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But so anyhow, there is that. Then there's Patrick Kennedy, the cousin, Ted's son, who ends up as a congressman and gets drunk or something and drives into a guardrail at the Capitol and sent off to rehab. I mean, it's like the whole family. I mean, it's like it happens like with each generation and any kind of courtly family. There's like an increasingly tendency towards criminal degeneracy, as it gets passed down from one link to another. But is Bobby, where does he fit in that? What do you think?
He's an enigma.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even begin to put a finger on this guy. He could go in any different direction. He has got such a history. And I mean, the stuff that he is siding with Trump on is the existential killer to the state.
The Ukraine.
And to the Ukraine scam. I mean, this is serious stuff that he's in schism with the party on.
Right.
And what it's doing is it's allowing all these people who up until now could only say, Donald Trump's terrible.
Right.
It'd be whatever the issue was. It didn't make any difference. Whatever your comment was about any issue, all they could muster was, but Donald Trump's really bad. And so now they are forced out of that. It's like they pushed them into another corner of Plato's cave with a stick, and they got to start over again. But whatever it is, the arguments are going to be different this time because it's coming from Bobby Kennedy and not from that Donald Trump guy.
Right, and that's where the Kennedy label will make it particularly hard to, like, they can't Tulsi Gabbard him into obsolescence, I mean, if her name had been Tulsi Kennedy, she'd been formidable. She's a really attractive lady. I mean, I hate to say that. I don't know why I noticed that, but when you and on that side, among Democratic women, I'm sorry, when you're looking at the rest of that herd, you are oddly, you knew she couldn't stay a Democrat forever. She had to drift over to wherever she is, orphan land right now. So, but they're in a fix. And we're in a fix for a different reason. We're all in a fix, but Biden will not be the candidate in 2024.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Which means that because at the end of his second term, he'd be 86 years old, and already he's not functional, right? He's not been functional for years.
That's right.
So where do they go? Now, if they were simply interested in power and retaining office, they would try to co-opt Robert Kennedy, he'd be a formidable, head of that ticket. He'd probably win. because he could probably get enough neutral support. But you're right. He is so alien to their way of thinking that they can't let that happen.
It'd just be bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen, Jack. They cannot allow Trump in. They can't allow anybody but Biden or their hand-selected replacement for him because the jig will be up. There's some very, very serious stuff that's going to get exposed.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, everything's on the table.
Right.
They've taken people out plenty of times before, and things could get sloppy and really nasty real quick.
Yeah, it is. I would say, we try not to talk about day-to-day politics, and we're not. We're jumping ahead, you see? So we can go upstream towards where the culture is or further downstream.
That's right.
To beyond the ordinary daily politics. And so where does that further downstream take us? You're right. It is, if you're a political scientist, most of them don't know anything about anything anyhow. But it's really challenging to foresee a future that is bright, to say the least. There are Republicans who could win the presidency, and they could fix a lot that's broken. But like a win by Trump would certainly trigger a massive counter-protest. A win by DeSantis probably would also. I mean, unless a win by you'd have to go down all the way down to a Nikki Haley or something for them not to flip out entirely, right? Because Nikki Haley's
that time, it might as well be Biden.
It might as well. I mean, Nikki Haley's a big champion of Ukraine. Maybe get Lindsey Graham in there or something, But and then if they succeed in electing Biden or a surrogate, we'll know that it was not done legally or honestly. It's going to be ugly. I cannot think. And this is where, I would say this is bizarre, and I don't mean to seem like I'm turning my back on my own party, but a Bobby Kennedy presidency might be the only thing that holds the republic together.
Yeah, well, I can see that point.
Which, from not so much from our side, but from their side, makes him so dangerous. Because holding the country together means eliminating a lot of the stuff that's...
Yeah, and exposing it.
Yeah. If he's going to...
I mean, we've had a real bad paucity of transparency and accountability lately.
Yeah.
Nobody's gone to jail for jack squat.
Right.
I don't care what it is. You can go back. Unless it's somebody like Roger Stone.
No, on our side, look at it. There's 100 people and 200 people in jail for January 6th.
But, ain't nobody going to jail on the other side.
It's difficult to imagine how that happens, especially given the way they've mastered the art of stonewalling, obfuscating. And it is a little discouraging.
It's very dangerous.
Yeah, it's that too.
It's insidious.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's interesting. I was watching there's a documentary on Netflix about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Boy.
I kind of half like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Before he became a bad governor, he was a good guy. Entirely self-willed. Total self-creation. And he's aware of that. He is among the more self-aware people I've seen. From the beginning, he was that way. And I bring him up, because he marries a Kennedy, right?
Uh-huh.
He becomes the governor of California. But he is that kind of model of a person who can just embrace what's in front of him. So he talks about coming to America in like 1969, and you could probably do a better Arnold Schwarzenegger accent than I can, but he said there were the Manson killings, there was the hippies rising, There was riots. But this was, to me, this city on the hill. This was a beautiful, shiny place. I saw it all. And I said, I want it. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to be the top. I'm going to be the king. And then they said, and he did. He succeeded in weightlifting, bodybuilding in a way no one had ever had before. Totally self-willed at every step of the game. And then he's in the documentary Pumping Iron.
Mm-hmm.
And did you ever see that?
I doubt it.
It's a documentary about weightlifting. He steals the show. And I remember seeing it with my wife, and I said, this guy's a star. He's just such a charismatic presence on the screen. So once he gets out of weightlifting, he goes into acting. And in the documentary says, they asked me, do you want to be an actor? I said, no, I don't want to be an actor. They said, what do you want to be? He goes, I want to be a star. He didn't want to play roles in movies. He wanted to be the title above the marquee. He wanted to be Conan the Barbarian or the Terminator, or the Predator or whatever other movies he was in. So, and then he self-creates his way to be governor of California, which is kind of his Waterloo in a way, but nonetheless, I haven't gotten to that chapter yet in the documentary. But what intrigued me about it was his take on the Reagan years. This comes up in the typically when the media talk about the Reagan years, they talk about the way the British media do about the Thatcher years, as a period of new racism, hate, homelessness. But he loves it. He loves the possibility of it, the brightness of it, the patriotism of it all, the fervor of it all, the excitement of it all, and thinking back, I did too.
Mm-hmm.
When I think back, what was our best political decade? It was 1980s.
I remember how great it felt to have Reagan representing the nation after Carter.
Right.
Because Carter was very embarrassing and humiliating.
Right.
Not for any particular incident that I can recall, but just that apologetic demeanor about that everything was wrapped in this aw shucks, hat in hand.
Right.
I was just sick of that.
Malaise.
Yeah.
Wearing a sweater in the White House.
Get that sweater out and get that swagger back.
Right. And
take those wussy little tennis shoes off and get me some cowboy boots back on this stump right here.
Well, and that is, in a sense, and anticipate when I watch Arnold Schwarzenegger assessing the 80s, I began to think, wouldn't it be great if we had that kind of vision right now as to what the next, the 2020s, late 2020s would be like, and it's not there.
No.
I'd like to think that Trump could be it again, but we know he's not Reagan in the ability to charm 49 states into voting for him, which Reagan did in '84, and we talked about that. He doesn't have the ability to, and it's not his fault even. It's just that the other side is so far gone. You need a different kind of person to.
Well, we'll see what Kennedy does to that mix, because there's going to be different reactions. These people can't continue to react in the same paradigm that they have been. Everything is changing immediately with Kennedy in there.
Right. They
have to retarget their focus on some other knee-jerk.
Yeah.
They can't continue. They've been, somebody just put a big blop right on the ant picnic, and they're having to go all the way around and figure out, now what do we do? How do we go around this? This is going to be an interesting development to see how they do this.
And what do you think about the Michelle Obama alternative? Have you followed that at all?
Nothing surprises me in that world. I wish I could say that was impossible.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're at the point now where we can't say anything's impossible because we've seen many of the impossible things happen just in the last 3 years, which were clearly the stupidest 3 years in American history.
Stupidest 3 years in American history.
Yeah. I mean, without a silver lining.
So stupid.
Yeah.
And with that, folks,
You know, I saw, oddly, speaking of which, I saw Bill Maher the other night cite a statistic that I had been citing. I'd forgotten about it. That showed, if any statistic ever did, just how stupid people were in the past 3 years. And he was talking to Jimmy Kimmel. And Kimmel is among the evangelists of stupidity. You know, he's one of the louder voices. And he cited, and I remember seeing because I'd written about this same survey. It was taken about a year into COVID, like about spring of 2021. And it asked the question, if you get COVID, what are the odds you're going to end up in the hospital, right? And it was 0-5%, 5 to 20%, 20 to 50%, 50% or above. 41% of Democrats a year into COVID said 50% or above. Another 28% said 20 to 50%. The real answer was 0 to 5%. So 69% of all Democrats overestimated the dangers of COVID to the point where they crippled our economy. And the question then is, why did they overestimate it? Because their media, led them on a scare campaign for that whole year preceding.
mm-hmm.
And they weren't listening to the alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
Which means if there was
weren't
any
allowed to, actually, the alternatives were purposefully muffled.
I mean,
baffled.
we found them because we were looking for them. You had to look around
You had to look.
around the major channels. So if there was any justice, it was that for a year or so, or more, or two, we had much more fun than they did, right? I was driving to LaGuardia last summer on a summer day. It was a hot, steamy day, stuck in traffic on the Bronx-Queen BQE, the Bronx-Queen Expressway. And you're running right up against these big apartment buildings or working class, middle class apartment buildings. And I'm looking at them thinking, how did people sit in those apartments for a year without going friggin' crazy? And that is why Joe Biden is president, because people are capable of doing that. People are capable of punishing themselves because they're reluctant to or unwilling to look beyond the news they're being fed on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is their electorate. And they'll vote for whomever they're told to vote for. Most of them, but not all of them.
Plato's Cave.
There it is.
It's right by the train station.
Right by the BQE. It's like no, it's so I am it would be nice if there was a bright shining knight on a white horse willing to rescue us. In the interim, we're going to have to rescue ourselves.
Well, it really tells you that there's only one person you can put your faith in. Yep.
Yeah.
It ain't down here.
No, it ain't down here, right?
And it's not going to happen.
So, but I don't know. This is where I remain vaguely, curiously optimistic. And now we're talking about people coming in from outer space. And
well, there is that.
that may be what we're looking for, But then the problem is when people come from outer space, if you watch the science fiction movies, none of them ever does us any good, They either come to kill us, which usually is the case in the movies anyhow, right?
Yeah.
Or capture our souls.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the whole body snatcher syndrome.
Yep.
Or to lecture us about world peace.
That's the worst.
And world government. That is the worst. Like
the worst.
The day the earth stood still. Remember?
Yeah, I was always looking like, all right, there's some bespeckled little wise ass back here who wrote this. Where's Rod Serling? Somebody out here wrote this.
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Rod Serling.
The stakeholder in the Twilight Zone. No, did you ever see The Day the Earth Stood Still?
Uh-huh.
You remember this movie?
I do.
With what's a British actor, Michael Rennie, right?
I don't remember.
But he's like one of the stiff British guys who might as well be Canadian. And you know that when he's come to lecture both sides, it's a Cold War kind of movie about man's inhumanity to man.
The great London master of the universe is here to lecture all the little people about how we Anglo-Saxons get along.
And so there is that genre.
Yeah.
Then there's the other genre, which is like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers genre.
Yeah.
Where they come in, and this is like a metaphor for communism, basically, where they come in and capture your minds and turn you into robots. Or like the famous Bob Hope line, where they come in and they turn you into zombies. And Bob Hope says, like Democrats? Yeah, right. Well, that's kind of what it's like. But then the other genres where they come in and just want to kill you, Like I think in Independence Day and some other movies. But in those movies, the American military rises up, sometimes at the head of an international brigade of people.
I just think that's so ridiculous. That's enough of that with this U.S. Army. Call in the WHO.
Right.
Get the World Health Organization on the phone now. We got a serious issue. Forget the U.S. military. We need NATO.
There it is. And we could go after Serbia again, which is more our speed. Now, I don't know if you saw the introductory one of Tucker Carlson, his Twitter appearance.
I heard it. I didn't see it.
But he started talking about UFOs seriously.
Yeah.
So that may be our salvation, at least our secular, temporary, this world salvation.
Yeah, I just hope it's the one-eyed, one-toed, flying purple people eater.
That's what we want. And the headline of the New York Times will be, aliens arrive on, no, they won't even say aliens. They can't even say aliens anymore. They say undocumented extraterrestrials arrive on Earth, casting into doubt once again the validity of the Christian message. So no, but that's
Yeah. Yeah, there's got to be some snappy anti-Christian message.
Well, that will be it, because then they'll say, hey, you said there was one guy, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, but he's, as Jesus said, my house is...
Move over, Jay guy.
My mansion has many rooms, or what was that? We're Catholic. We don't know what these Bible passages are, but there's room for other planets to have, to be part of our galactic conversion policy here. But as soon as they land, I think they can be sure that the FBI will be planting little aliens among them to see what they're up to. It's a strange world, boy, and we can only solve so many problems each week. So
here on Upstream
with Cashill and Edge. We'll be back next week, and I want to thank again our lovely host producer here, Carly. I won't mention her last name for fear of getting her investigated by the FBI. And the good people at Real Media Studios in Overland Park who are gracious enough to let us come here every week. So, hey, thanks a lot. Hey, Lloyd, good job, and we'll see you soon. Okay?
Thanks, Jack.
Okay.
See you then.
Bye-bye.